In this lesson, we're going to learn a little bit more about pen graphics using the JaviPen in Java Inventor. So I'll go ahead and open up my JaviSchool project. And the first thing I want to do is go to the JaviSchool documentation page and click on Learn Pen Graphics 2. And then I want to go ahead and run this documentation page as a separate application. And I'm just going to leave it in the upper right hand corner so I can refer to it as we work on our lesson. And I'll go ahead and close the run box and go back to the home page. So the first thing we really want to do in this lesson is create a new starter file as we have in previous lessons. And so I'll just click on the new starter file button and I'm going to type in pentest2. So this creates our new starter file. It's a Java console subclass and it's got the main method in it. And it's got the stub print line method that just prints something. So the first thing we want to do in this file is turn on a little teaching tool for graphics, which is telling the console to draw the coordinate system. And the way we do this is we just tell the console to set show chords, and we set the parameter to true. We save this and run, and this just brings up an empty console window, but it's drawing the coordinate grid. And so we see in the upper right hand corner it goes 680 across and 0 down, and in the lower left hand corner it is 0 across but 478 down. So this is a standard coordinate system for math class, and as we move the mouse around we see the individual coordinates at certain points. For instance, in the middle, it's about 330 across by 225 down. So I'll go ahead and close this. And the next step in this lesson is that we want to do our lesson this week in a custom draw method. And so up until this point, we've been doing everything in the main method. But if we create a separate method, this will help make our programs more extensible and easier to read. And so what I want to create this week is a custom draw method, and it's going to look just like the main method above it, but it'll have a different name. So I'll say public void draw it, but this method is going to take a parameter which is the JaviPen. So I'll type in the type JaviPen and a name. I'll call it a pen. And then I'll just have one line of code for starters where I'll say pen move. And then in our main method, we want to get the console pen and call draw it. So again, I'll put in the type JaviPen and a name, and I'll set it equal to the console get pen, and then I'll call draw it with the pen. And I'll save this and run. And so we get our console with a coordinate system, and the pen shows up and it just draws a line across the screen. So what we want to do with the pen this week though is instead of just telling it to turn and move and jump, we want to do some very specific drawing using the coordinate system and the coordinate system drawing methods. And so instead of just calling pen move, we can actually tell it where to move to with the move to method, which takes an x and y coordinate, and the line to method, which takes an x and a y coordinate. So for instance, let's do draw a house, and we'll start by saying draw a base of house, and we'll tell the pen first we want to move it to a point in the upper left hand corner about 100 across and 100 down, and then we'll draw a line across, so we'll move it about 300 across and 100 down. I'll start a new line and I'll say pen, and I want to move to the bottom right hand corner, so I'll say line to 300 across and 300 down, and then I'll do a line to the bottom left hand corner which is only 100 across but 300 down. And then I'm going to use this close method, which is a convenience that simply draws a line from the current point to the last move point. And then you'll notice that I use method chaining again to make the lines of code a little more concise. So we'll go ahead and save this and run. And we'll see that we've got the pen drawing a simple box. So now to draw the roof, we're going to want to go about halfway across the box and almost to the top of the screen. So it's about 200 across and 20 down. And then we'll complete it by going 300 across and 100 down. So I'll close this and I'll say draw roof of house, and I'll say pen, line 2, that point 200 across and 20 down, and then line 2, 300 across, 100 down. I'll save this, run it, and so now we get the base of the house, and then we get the roof of the house. So you see the move to and line 2 methods make it a lot more convenient to do some very specific drawing. So now what we want to do is create a simple drawing program. So drawing programs are some of the most common pieces of software, like Adobe Illustrator or Visio, things that let you draw a poster or graphics that you might print out. So it's an interesting little exercise here to create a simple console-based drawing program. So I'll go ahead and delete a couple lines here, and I'm going to say ask user for coordinates. And so this is from our first lesson. We can declare a variable x, and it's of type integer. And remember, integer is what Java uses for a number. For a whole number, in fact. It's the simplest kind of Java number. And we want to ask the user, so we'll say get input int, and we'll type in a string here. We'll say enter an x chord. And then we'll just copy and paste this and ask for a y coordinate. And then we'll simply say pen line 2 x comma y, and that's our simple draw program. So I'll hit save and run, and I'll move my mouse over here so we can choose a point. So here we go, 460 across and 240 down, and it draws a line right to our cursor. So now, to make it a little more interesting, we're going to do a little bit of advanced coding and use something called a for loop, because I want to be able to draw 100 lines, enter in 100 lines to do more complicated drawing. And so a for loop, the syntax for a simple for loop is actually pretty easy. We'll just say for, and we declare a variable integer I is equal to 0, and then we want to keep going while I is less than 100. And at every point in the loop, we want I to add 1. So I++ is a way of saying add 1 to I each time through the loop. So now if we run the program, we can do multiple lines. So I'll go over here, 200 across and 244 down. And then I'll go up to 340 across, 73 down, and then I'll go down here to 500 across and 400 down. So now we could draw a much more sophisticated picture. Alright, so I'll go ahead and close this, and now that we've completed our draw program, let's create another interesting kind of program, a program that uses random numbers. So random numbers is the ability of a computer to just pick a number out of thin air, like asking a friend, pick a number from 1 to 10. And this is actually a very powerful thing that computers can do, that is an essential part of games that have enemies that move in any direction. You never know, you can't predict it because the computer is picking a number at random. So instead of asking the user for coordinates, we'll say get random coordinates. And I'll go ahead and say for x, I want to get a random number, so we can actually ask the console for a random number, get random. And this takes a parameter, which is the number that we want to be the random to cover. So I'm going to say 600, and this will give us a number from 0 to 600. And then I'm going to do the same thing for y. But instead of just going from 1 to 600, we might want the line to stay within the console. So we really want it to go from 0 to the console width. And we can actually just ask the console. There's a method called getWidth. So that'll be our x, and for our y, we'll do getHeight. So now we're getting two coordinates that span the width and height of the console, and we're just drawing a line. And with our for loop, we're doing it 100 times. So I'll go ahead and hit run. And so now we've got a drawing program where the computer has decided to draw something for us, and we can just sit back and wait and see what it'll draw. So I'll go ahead and stop this, and our next step is that in addition to making the drawing point random, we can also make the pen's color and pen width random. So I'll say set pen color and width at random. So the way we do this is I'll say pen set color, and from a previous lesson we found that we can pass in a name here like red or blue or pink, and it turns out there's a special color called random that will pick a color for us. Then we'll do the same thing for the width, set the pen width, and this time I want the width to be at least 5, and but then I'll go ahead and add to that a random number from 1 to 25. So this will actually give us a width between 5 and 30. So I'll save this and run. And so now we get all our random lines at random points and in random colors and random widths. So then finally, just for the sake of doing something interesting, I'm going to, in addition to calling the pen to draw 100 lines, I'm going to put an inner loop in here, and I'm going to create a new variable j that I want to go from 0 to 10, and I'll increment it at every point. And then instead of just using the standard console pen, I'm going to ask the console for the pen at j, at index j. And that console actually has any number of pens. We can ask for pen 0, pen 1, pen 2, and it'll keep providing it for us. So we're going to ask for up to 10 pens and tell each one of them to draw a random line and a random color. So I'll go ahead and save this. And let's see, I got an extra character in there. I should have said j is less than 10. So I'll save that, and then I'll go ahead and hit run. And so now we've got our 10 pens, and they're running around, drawing to random points and random colors and random widths. So and this is the end of our lesson.